Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome to the hour of 9. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra. Thank you so much for being with us right from 6:30 till now. Or thank you for having joined. I know there could be those that have joined midway of these programs, but thank you so much for making us a TV of your choice. And it is our obligation to ensure that you're well versed with what is happening. We always set the agenda of the day, so make it a date that you begin your day with us on UBC TV. Once again, I'm Robert Chirabo Nyonyitono, and now I come with a fairly hard topic, I know, for many people, but I believe by the end of these 50 minutes, you'll be able to understand or to know, in case you haven't. We are here just to remind you of your obligation this morning, and that is the taxpayers. Just remind you that 31st is the deadline for you to have filed your income tax returns. December is soon coming to an end, and the URA deadline is always 31st. Now, with me on set to discuss this is the Acting Supervisor, Public Relations and Communication, Uganda Revenue Authority, that is Solomon Chimbugwe. You're most welcome, Solomon.
Thank you so much, my brother, for having me this morning. I'm very glad to be in the UBC studios. Impressive studios, I must say.
We have the best not only in Uganda, but also when we talk about the region. You will never see anything next to this.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt. Now, we know when we talk about URA, people know that tax collector. And of course, even the biblical days, the tax collector was not someone so much wanted. Because some people believe that not paying tax is maximization of profits. Yet they forget that it's the tax that creates that conducive environment for them to thrive as the business community. But when we talk about filing returns, more so income tax returns, and the deadline being 31st of December, let's just kick it at that.
Thank you so much, Robert, for that submission. Indeed, like you mentioned, the Bible has taxation featuring quite significantly in a number of areas, and I guess the ones that are most outstanding are the stories of Zacchaeus, the collector who Jesus, brought to the front. He was trying to take a glance at Jesus, and he was said to be a short man. So he had climbed the tree, and he was just trying to have a glance from a distance. I think he felt a bit unworthy, and Jesus told him to, get closer. And we are in the festive season, of course. So it is important that we get to appreciate the fact that the taxman is also your friend, just like the gesture that Jesus demonstrated to,
And also in the Bible, there's a story where they asked Jesus and told them, give to God what belongs to God and give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar.
That is the second scenario that I was going to go for, where, of course, Jesus made it abundantly clear that it is imperative for every person, every citizen. It is good citizenship to give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, because at the end of the day, you're going to expect a good road, you're going to expect services, you're going to expect your local government to do some things ground, and it becomes a bit difficult for those things to happen if you're not, oiling the machine. So this is the part where I get to salute every taxpayer who has already done the duty of his tax obligations, that is to, file his returns and also go ahead to remit against that which he has filed. And there are many, because the year has been quite challenging, as we've all witnessed. It started on the back end of a pandemic. Then we experienced a bit of drought. We experienced that war that had permutations that affected almost every country in the world, because we all know that Russia and Ukraine are big on oil and gas. They're also big on wheat, So you can imagine how their war affected, the entire global trading spectrum. But that withstanding, Ugandans have demonstrated a very high affinity to comply to their taxes. And if you've been monitoring the performance that the revenue mobilization has been registering this financial year, it's been incredible. We came off the back end of the highest collection that we've ever garnered as an entity, over 21 trillion. And even when you monitor the first 2 quarters, we are right on track. We are chasing the target quite fervently. And that does not in any way speak to how incredible we are as an organization, but rather how incredible the taxpayers have been when it comes to them meeting their tax obligations, and that's a big plus.
In my Sunday school, they used to say, clap for yourselves. Clap for yourselves, fellow Ugandans that have been able to pay your taxes, pay them on time, so that you have good testimonies. I want to call them testimonies from the tax collector when they say that even, I remember you supersede your surplus, you just had surplus.
Yes.
And I think that was something very incredible in the first quarter, where I would think that the economy is shrinking, people are doing all it takes to dodge taxes, but URA comes out and says we had a surplus. Also, I want to also a bit of commend URA, because we know paying tax or collecting tax is not easy.
It's not. It's not an easy job, but it gets better when you put the right systems in place, and then you see the taxpayers responding to those systems the way that the taxpayers of Uganda are responding. So we remain confident that even with just a few days remaining to the end of this particular calendar year, which for some people is the end of their window to file their tax returns, especially for those taxpayers whose year of income operates like a financial year. I'm speaking to that business person whose year of income for the period of 2021 to 2022 ended on 30th June. He has had 6 months, because you usually have 6 months during which you must ensure that your books are right, you put all the books in order, and you've gone ahead to file your returns. That return is your way of telling the taxman how you have fared in that particular period as a business. If you have,
so basically the word returns and filing is what we should emphasize to explain what we mean in the perspective of you, the tax collector.
100%. Those two words sound like complicated words, but my job here is to perhaps demystify them and simplify them for the benefit of the person who's watching. And I'll use the example of a guy who has a job. You work somewhere, for example, we've just had a side conversation, and it's something that people might not know, but the man is a certified vet, and when he's not in office doing this work, he does some work, which is typical of most Ugandans. Now, what happens is that when you're done, for instance, working at your 8 to 5, most people then go to their quote-unquote side hustle. It could be a bakery, it could be a saloon, it could be anything, really. And you go there and you ask the boys or the girls who, work with you, how did we fare today? And they'll come and they'll tell you that we, made this kind of money, we had such and such a volume of clients who came in, and we gave them this kind of service. Then they'll also tell you, very importantly, that we also spent some of the money that was made on these number of items. For instance, we subscribed for Yaka, for this month. We paid the rent, the landlord came around. We paid for the water bills, we paid for gas, we subscribed for DSTV, if it is something that you have actually put in place as an amenity for your clients to enjoy, and all of that. So those then become business expenses, you know. So at the end of the day, it is your job to appreciate at that side hustle, at your business, how you have fared or where the balance lies on that very day. You want to know if you have been able to make money or if you have lost more money than you have made. That way you get to know where the business is in terms of health. How healthy is the business on the money side? Now, you do that for a day, you do that for a week, you do that for a month, you do that for a year. You're moving in a very sound way when it comes to your business. And now it becomes even easier when it comes to this time where you are expected to file a return, because then you know exactly how the business has been faring, you know exactly how the business has been operating, and you go ahead to, you know, make that declaration to URA, painting a very vivid picture on whether you are fit to pay tax or not. It is at this point that I must emphasize that taxes are paid where a profit has been made, especially when it comes to income tax. He who is profiting is good to pay tax. He who is not, he shouldn't be paying tax because you're not profiting. But the big question is, how will the taxman know whether your business is profiting or not? And that forms the genesis, that forms the essence of this animal that we call a return that you must file, because it is through that return that you make the taxman know if he should expect some money from you by way of tax or not.
Very interesting. Solomon, now you've talked about me presenting this, but who is required of filing returns at this particular time of the year? Who is that one? That because people, we have a number of businesses, but which client are you looking at that come 31st you must have filed your returns?
Very interesting question. I must say that anyone who is in the game of making money in this country, if you're operating a business as an individual or as a company, it is incumbent on you to consider making this declaration to URA, to let URA know that this business is doing well or this business is not doing well. If a business is doing well, you go ahead to file, and filing this return is your opportunity to self-determine how much money you're going to have to pay in terms of tax. Because Uganda is one of those countries that have taken that step to modernize their tax regimes, and a modern tax regime requires that the taxpayer gets to determine first how much to pay. It is only where a taxpayer has failed to grab that opportunity through filing a return to determine how much tax to pay that the taxman then comes in with an assessment. And that assessment at times comes with elements like penalties, things that I'm sure French fans wouldn't want to hear of, and also fines and interest depending on how long you've gone on without, you know, filing that return. I really want to take this opportunity to appeal to every Ugandan who is tuned in and listening to consider this return as an opportunity, because that's what it is. This is the tool that is put in place for you to determine how you're going to be operating your business. Tax is a matter of life. It is here. You can't avoid it. But the question is, how are you going to go about it? Now, there are two ways. You can either be proactive to tax. A person who is proactive to tax is a person who starts a business with the knowledge that at some point I'll have to remit tax. Now that person takes charge. That way, they keep their books, they file their returns, and they use the opportunity to determine how much to pay. Then they go ahead and they pay that which is rightful, which is the tax that they were actually supposed to pay. Then the other scenario is the reactive one, where someone says, you are in Anonia. and they do not file, their returns. They do not pay against, the returns that they should have filed. And what happens then is that because of the technology in place, FREs, all this technology that we use to run the tax system in Uganda, it is intelligent in a sense that if we are doing business, and I'm in business with you, and you have declared your returns, you'll have me in your returns as a person with whom you've done business. And now if I don't declare my returns, there'll be a mismatch automatically, and a red flag will be raised. And it is against such scenarios that an assessment is made. So the bottom line here is the reactive option is usually not a good one, because by the time the taxman comes knocking, he's going to come in with difficult conversations. The reason why we are here on inside the UBC studios today is to make an appeal to every person who is in business to consider the proactive approach.
Now, also this brings me to ask, who is exempted from filing their tax returns? Because in my mind, I'm trying to look at anyone who is in money-making business. Viewers, we're not talking about printing money, but anyone who is doing business and you're making money, that they have to file. I believe there could be categories that are exempted.
100%.
Okay.
There are some categories that are exempt from filing their returns, especially if we are talking about income tax returns. And there are mainly two. One of them is non-resident taxpayers, for whom withholding tax is the final tax. I'll explain the non-residents. We are not talking about people who are foreigners. You could be a foreigner in the context of your passport, but when you're actually resident for the purposes of taxes. And for one to qualify to be a resident of Uganda for the purposes of taxes, you have a couple of conditions that should be fulfilled. One of them is you having stayed within Uganda during a calendar period, a 12-month span, for a period longer than 183 days, if those days have been consistent. Or the other scenario is a period of 122 days, if within 3 calendar periods you've garnered an average of 122 days of existence in this country, then you also do qualify to be a resident. Now, if you do not qualify to be a resident, the other option is if you're employed by the government of Uganda. You definitely also automatically qualify to be a resident for tax purposes. And you qualify then to pay income tax should you go ahead and operate a business. But in the instance of a person not falling within that bracket, resident rules apply also to companies. Because I was speaking at first for individuals, but even companies too. If a company is registered here in Uganda, it is domiciled in Uganda, it also qualifies to be a resident company, and it automatically qualifies to have conversations with URA of income tax. But if someone does not fall in any of those categories, you've just come here maybe from Germany to consult with UBC on how they can improve their programming further, and you've been here for a very short stint, then you've gone back after doing your work, and you've gotten paid, then withholding tax becomes a final tax to you. That way you don't qualify to have conversations of income tax. The other category is the category of people for whom employment is the only source of income. Like, the only money that I get to touch in my life is the money that is paid to me by my employer. If you fall in that category, then you also don't qualify to, file for income tax, because your employer has already filed for you a tax head that we call pay as you earn, pay, which is on a monthly basis. It runs every 15th of the subsequent month. Pay is expected to be filed and remitted for you by your employer. The same goes for tax heads like value-added tax, local excise duty, and withholding tax. They run on a monthly basis. Yes.
Now, let's also get to educate our viewers. What is required of me before filing my income tax returns?
Thank you so much for that question, Robert. I'll use the analogy of what we just concluded. We just had perhaps what is the most memorable World Cup in World Cup history, where we saw Lionel Messi and his gang of friends lifting that coveted trophy at the expense of the French team. Now, if there is any lesson to pick from what the Argentina team did, then that lesson is preparation. They were better prepared. Like between them and their French counterparts, Argentina was ready for longer than 120 minutes, because you could clearly see when it got to the penalty shootouts that they were the team that had an edge over the other. And Martinez didn't disappoint in the goal, but also the Argentine players converted their penalties. And what happened to the French team was that Choumeni got nervous, which was expected as a young man. He was having his first World Cup tournament, and he missed the opportunity to convert his. Away from football, business is very much akin to football, in a sense of everything that is expected of a team that is better prepared is something that then should be happening. I'll give you an example. For a person who is in business and you want to operate successfully and be like Argentina, there are things that you must have in place. One of them is proper bookkeeping. You cannot file a return if you've not been keeping proper books, because then what are you going to base off to file that return? Yet, if you have been keeping proper books, when the return filing window comes around, that 6 months period between June to December, between July 1st to December 31st, it's a 6 months window for you to file your return. That speaks to the final tax return. But also for people who are filing provisional.
Maybe someone allow me to cut you short. We shall return on what is required. This time that we have to check out here. Let me go for a short commercial break. I'll be returning very quickly, and of course you watching us will emphasize how you need to prepare yourself before you file your returns. Remember, deadline is 31st of December. You must have filed your income tax returns for you to get fair assessment. That is what I want to say. Fair assessment, maintain peace in your business. I return shortly.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
In chess, the small one can become the big one. It's the same here. And here too. Watch every move. Record every number so you can plan better. No matter the size of your dream, tomorrow's success belongs to those who keep today's records clean. File your returns today.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
It's our mission to secure your money Protecting your money is as important as earning it. It is for this reason that the Deposit Protection Fund of Uganda, DPF, was established by the government of Uganda to provide deposit protection to customers of regulated financial institutions. In the unlikely event that your commercial bank, credit institution or microfinance deposit-taking institution fails, the DPF will pay you up to 10 million Uganda shillings. Keep your personal information such as national identification number, mobile phone or an alternative bank account updated with your banker. Terms and conditions apply. For more information, contact DPF at Aha Towers, Plot 7 Lodell Road, Kampala. Call 0312 206 400 or visit our website at www.dpf.or.ug.
We are the DPF. We protect your money. Protection Fund of Uganda.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here. In the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's what you feel in the gentle caress of tropical wind from the mountaintops. And the glow in your heart from a warm neighborly invite. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey. In the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Welcome back from that short break and thank you for being with us on UBC TV. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra and we are still looking at tax return filing as an obligation. And remember, for people that are mandated to pay, that is income tax, your deadline to file your returns is the 31st of December. Come 31st of December, well, then the taxman will have nothing to look at as a basis to know which tax you're supposed to pay. So they may end up making their assessment, and then there we hear many people say we would be doing well, but the taxman, emisolo mingi, URA etukola. Now, musubuza ndaba, oba munaffe ali mu business, oyina ennaku zino esigaddeyo, okuweereza embalirirayo, ensaasaanyaayo eri URA, for our brothers in the Luganda version of it. Ng'ennaku z'omwezi 31 tezinnatuuka. Ekitongole ekiweeza emisolo kisinziire ku bizinesi ebadde etambula okugerekera omusolo gw'olina okusasula. Kozesa akaseera kano munnaffe osasula omusolo gwo. Kye tuli mu kwogerako. Now your children can come and guide you with the rest of the show. Well, before we went for that break, we were still looking at what I need to have in place before filing my returns.
True. I remember I had used the analogy of the Argentines and how they were better prepared than their French counterparts, and they went ahead to lift the trophy. Now, when it comes to business, which should be looked at in a way that is very close to football, because there are elements of winning. To succeed, there are things that you must do. So one of them is proper bookkeeping, so that you're always in the know of how the business is faring. When you do proper bookkeeping, it's very difficult for you to be taken by surprises, because even when it comes to decisions that are as simple as reducing or increasing the capital, or considering to go for a loan, or considering to lend some money to maybe a business partner or something, it's easy when you're making such decisions off data that is available to you, when you know that I'm healthy enough to make some decisions. So it is the same thing even also when it comes to URA, because then you're able to manage cash flows better. You're also able to file exactly that you should be filing, and you pay exactly what you should be paying, not a penny more, not a penny less. The other things that you must have in place in order to prepare yourself very well for the return filing season is you need to have a reliable internet connectivity, because return filing is done online on the URA website, www.ura.go.ug. So you need to have a reliable internet connection. It goes without speaking that you must also have a computer in place. Could be a very high-end smartphone or a computer that can help you to get the job done. There are also other elements that you must consider having. For instance, for those who are filing payee for your employees, the teams of your employees are very important to have in this conversation, because it is the teams that you will have to use when you're taking care of their details within that return. Then for our friends who are into VAT accounting, those who are VAT registered, it is important for you to know that for purposes of VAT return filing, the invoices or the receipts that you need are the ones that have been electronically generated using EFRIS, the system.
Which is still a challenge to many people in the business community.
It is, and
EFRIS is a challenge.
That is why I must emphasize it, because we've had scenarios where someone is trying to file their return, and it concerns VAT, and all VAT registered taxpayers today are mandated to be on the system, EFRIS. So that time comes, he's trying to file that return, but the receipts that he is making a provision for are not e-receipts, they're not e-invoices, the ones that are generated by the system. Those receipts become unacceptable, because ultimately they become unfair to the other party that you did business with, because you want something that balances. I'm saying that we did business, I transacted with you, I sold you some items. You should be equally saying that indeed you bought some items from me, and we are having that conversation within EFRIS. That way, when it comes to the time of accounting, we should both be able to make a very end-to-end accounting scenario that makes sense for both parties, and also for URA. It becomes easier for reconciling. If a person is making a provision for VAT accounting and they don't have the e-receipts made a provision for, it raises a red flag on the side of the taxman, and that is when you usually have our auditors coming very quickly to have a conversation with you. So it is good advice for the VAT registered taxpayers to also make sure, like to be very intentional on this, and make sure that they are issuing, but they are also demanding for e-receipts and e-invoices to make return filing easy on their part. Then, of course, I mentioned about the TIN. The TIN is very important. The TIN is your vehicle to have any sort of interaction with URA. So the TIN is also a must-have when it comes to the time of filing the returns. Now, for the books, the kind of books that people must really be very intentional in when they are keeping books, they include sale records. You need to know, you need to have a very good picture. Earlier in the show, I gave an example of a guy who is running a side hustle, and he goes in the evening to do proper bookkeeping, to monitor how much money was made by his team on any given day. Sikwejarabya. Ensonga enkulu nnyo, because a time comes when you need to get practical and you demonstrate to the taxman that this is how much I made, so this is how much I expect to pay in terms of taxes, because the rates are clear. And if you don't have a proper basis by way of good books of account that you're going to rely on to, you know, solidify that declaration which you have made to URA, life can become a bit difficult for you. So those are some of the areas where people need to be very intentional.
Now, this brings me quickly to what are some of the challenges that people face when submitting their returns, because this also must address them.
True, 100%. There are challenges that some are technology based. Then there are challenges that are based on the record keeping, how good it is or how poor it is, depending on where the business is at. And you know, that culture of waiting for the last minute to do something, it is a culture that can be quite injurious for anyone in any field. Now, even for a person who is doing business, if you wait for the very last minute to you know, file that return, you might get an unfortunate experience of, say, the internet acting up on that day, or the system having a moment of intermittence. These things do happen. So you don't want to wait for the very last minute to get it done. That's why if today, for instance, is 28th, then someone should be able to do it rather early. Don't wait for 31st. Don't wait for 30th. Do it rather early, so that by the time everyone is trying to optimize the internet and bringing a very high traffic to, you know, the system, for you, you've already done it, and you're somewhere in church waiting to usher in 31st or a nice fireworks joint of your choice. You don't want to be caught up in the hustle of trying to beat the deadline on the night of 31st. So you get it done early. It can be a way of solving the problems that come with the system-based issues or technology-based issues. The other element that I must speak to is something that I've spoken about earlier, but I must emphasize it because it forms the gist of this whole conversation: proper bookkeeping. When you have the books in order, you will not have scenarios where you're under-declaring, or in very few cases, over-declaring.
Now, in relation to that, what are some of the risks or errors one should avoid while filing their returns? Because there is a similarity.
Yeah,
let's take it at once.
Let's take it at once. There is. Some of the errors that people should be careful to avoid, of course, errors of under-declaration. I would also say errors of over-declaration. But I want to say that with a smile, because when you over-declare, it's a big problem to you, but for the collector, it's a plus. The good thing, though, is that even when you over-declare, you're able to revisit your return, and if the grounds are good, you're able to access a refund. URA is in the culture of refunding taxpayers, where it is due.
How easy is that?
Very easy. It used to be a bit difficult in the past, but because of the system enhancements that we have put in place, one of them is EFRIS, by the way, which we talked about earlier. The process of refunds has been made much, much faster and much easier, and there are many people who can testify to that, unlike in the past. So, yeah, URA is in the habit of refunding taxpayers where there have been errors that are verifiable. The other error that people must consider avoiding is errors of putting the wrong things, especially when you're, for instance, making a payee return. You want to make a payee return that is declaring Solomon Chimbugwe, but you put Robert Tin. You know, that causes a mismatch, and it affects the declaration ultimately. Also, the teams of the suppliers, the people who you are working with, because suppliers have to be declared because money has been paid to them, and oftentimes where they qualify to have some of the money withheld for withholding tax purposes, this must be indicated quite clearly. So the TIN of the supplier is something that is also very fundamental to have when you're filing your return, because if you're not declaring the right supplier for whom money has been withheld, then there is a gap there. It is both a gap on your part, but it is also a gap for URA on the data capturing side. So those are elements that people need to be very, very careful with when they're filing their returns. You need to be very alert, you need to be very sober, and you capture every detail to the T, so that you don't have a scenario where you're leaving something out for a chance for something to go wrong for your business.
Definitely. Well, in the interest of time, I see we just have very few minutes left. But before I let you go, what are some of the service channels that are there to support our taxpayers as they are filing their returns?
Thank you so much, Robert. Now, I must start this conversation by telling the taxpayers that URA has changed its dispensation and the way that it serves the taxpayers. We've adopted the heart of a business partner, because in a sense URA is a business partner. Anyone for whom you have to remit some money to at the end of a financial cycle is technically a business partner. And as a tax collector, URA is indeed your business partner. And in the spirit of partnership, in the spirit of favor no, URA has made a provision to work longer hours during this festive season, when everyone else has probably gone to their village. Some have traveled abroad, some people are having some good family time, but URA staff, both customs and domestic taxes, are serving extra hours to ensure that there is no single taxpayer who crosses into the new year with tax obligations from the past year unfulfilled. So if it is a return that you have to file, people are on hand and they're ready to support you and make sure that you cross over without any tax situations or tax burdens that you're going with in the new year. Now, beyond the office working hours, we also have a number of platforms. For instance, our toll-free line, 0800 117,000 and 0800 217,000. These are also open. You can have a conversation with any of our tax agents who are also working longer hours. They work right up to midnight, taking calls, ensuring that they are able to walk with you the return filing journey to ensure that you cross over in a very nice way without any tax burdens. We are also on the socials, and it is at this point that I must mention for those who are enthusiastic about chatting, we have a provision of a WhatsApp number, 0772 14 000. I'll say it again, 0772 14 000. This number is available for you to chat with in case you have anything that challenges you when it comes to return filing or any other tax matter. We are also on Twitter, and you can get into the DM and you can raise a question there. We have a YouTube channel called URA TV, one of the most robust YouTube platforms in the country, and it has a litany of information that is purposed to help you. We do have so many how-to videos on there in the Favor No video playlist, and you'll be guided on how to go about any URA process. Once you get to that YouTube channel and you select that playlist to see how you can do anything that you can do for yourself. You don't need a second party. That's the spirit of having that provision of the YouTube channel, to show people that you don't need to go to that cafe, you don't need to go to that plug when you can do these things. All you need is the internet, and we've created a series of videos to enable people to be able to navigate these formerly complex tax processes that have now been simplified by way of video. We also do have a provision of LinkedIn. For those who are about the LinkedIn life, you can catch us on LinkedIn, you can catch us on Facebook, you can catch us on Instagram. We are available on every digital platform, and the commitment that we have with you is that on our side, we are ready to support you with anything that you need to cross over into 2023 without any tax burden from this year 2022.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Solomon Chimbugwe, who is the acting, that is Supervisor Public Relations and Communication, that is Uganda Revenue Authority. Thank you for your time, for this reminder that, hey, before 31st, make sure you have filed your returns, most for income tax, and of course, this will be the basis for that taxman to be able to know how much you should pay. And of course, also for you to feel that you've had fair assessment, because there's this information that they will depend on to know if you've made profits, if you've not made profits, and also gauge the tax that you're supposed to pay. Well, see you tomorrow, God willing. Have a lovely time. Enjoy responsibly. Do not drink excessively. Do not engage in any activity that may not see you crossing over to 2023. Let's be responsible citizens at such a time. And above all, let's maintain peace at all costs. Drive safely in case you're coming back to Kampala to enjoy the new year, or in case you're going to the village. Well, plan your journey on time. Would not want to hear more accidents, please. Let's all cross into 2023. Have a good day. See you tomorrow.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.